So, hello. Have a nice evening and greetings to you all over the world. And welcome to the new workshop, new meetup, as a writing workshop. For those new here, I'm doing every week on Sunday evening a writing workshop. We had topics like publishing, we had topics like design, game design, research, design thinking, project management, working with LaTeX, working with Word. So all those different topics, but the last 4 weeks I focused on critically reviewing what I already wrote like 2 years ago, simply with the new knowledge I got about narration, about character development, about how to write a book. And I welcome you to join me for another hour of writing. So last time I did a lot of criticizing and reading my previous book. Today it will be a little bit of reading, but focus really today is writing and basically editing and improving the text and simply talking about, okay, what could be improved. Maybe you can take some of those ideas for your own project. That would be ideal. So if you have any questions, or if you want to share a project, or if you have some ideas yourself, just use the comments. I would also welcome for a Zoom meeting if there is interest to talk about a particular book. So if you have a book yourself you want to discuss, so just let me know, and then we would have one Sunday as a topic then your book if you're interested. It's still a small channel. I'm building it slowly up. My channel is about mostly publishing and game design and writing fiction books, writing non-fiction books. I wrote a lot of non-fiction books in the past, but now I'm focusing on fiction books. Okay, so just for those who are new here, what is the current project I'm working on? So that is my book. I mean, it's not published, but that's what I'm writing. I left it after a while ago, but I'm starting now again. That's Clouds of Venus. That's of course a working title. There is actually was actually last year or 2 years ago a book published with the same title. So just briefly, what it is about, just to get you sorted. So I developed a game world for a card game, or I'm currently doing that in that game world. It is a little bit like alternative history, where an asteroid hit the Earth, and that didn't destroy the world, but it changed a lot of the power structure on the world. And the main focus of the game is technologies, future technologies, for example, chips in the brain, or climate, solar panels, robots, cybernetics, virtual world, intelligent systems, future materials, etc. And the novel plays in that world, and in the novel it's both about talking about what makes us human, basically, and also those future technologies. So it's a novelization of a basically non-fiction book. Like you could read a dry book about how the brain works, but this is more like a novel and a real story. And it kind of has also to do with what is happening currently in the presence, because the international order is kind of breaking up in the moment. So there's a little bit connection, of course, to the current situation. Okay, so in this regard, let's start with maybe we'll do a quick overview of what we've noted down last time. And that is this year. So this is still open for discussion. So it's a hard science You don't see that. Wait, it's a hard science fiction book, post-apocalyptic, and we are accompanying in the story a scientist, and maybe there's a specialist, and it is about technological advances. It is about an asteroid impact, and it is about pre-war maybe or post-apocalyptic situation. So that is still open. This is what we discussed last time here, the narrator. So if you remember, a lot of what I used in the book is written from a omniscient perspective. Omniscient perspective is nice to simply explain things, but you don't want to just have paragraphs of paragraphs explaining stuff, how the world works. So that is usually known as, show, don't tell. Don't have like paragraphs and paragraphs explaining how the world works. That's boring. Have the people in the world act, and have the reader thus discover what your world is about. And that will be the focus today. For example, I think it isn't in the first one, but where is it? For example, what's a good example? Wait, it's a little bit later. Yeah, for example, here I put a whole paragraph of explaining a technology, how interplanetary communication works. So I don't know if you imagine or if you know the series The Expanse. It's a great hard science fiction series where they, for example, experience the pressure when accelerating the spaceship. So they have to strap in and get a special injection into their blood so that they can experience that much pressure. For example, there's a scene where I think it's the president or so, talks with her husband on the moon, and they keep on falling into each other's words because it takes a little bit time for light to travel between the Earth and the moon. And instead of explaining, having a narrator in the room basically explaining to the viewer, it takes X seconds for light to reach the moon. Let me just light, moon, seconds. That it takes how many seconds? 1.2 seconds actually. Yeah, 1.28 seconds or 1.3 light seconds. So whatever you say, there's always a second or so that is there's a delay of a second. And you can imagine talking to each other with a second delay can already cause some problems, especially because it's not a direct light connection if you're using a phone or internet access, because you also have some delay to the transmitter station, and it has to go back and forth, etc. So it might take longer than 1.3 seconds, maybe 2 seconds. And that alone, instead of explaining, that is how that technology works, have people interact with that technology and experience the frustrations of having that distance. The challenge, of course, in terms of writing in my book is how to explain past technologies that are already introduced, that are not new, and that people already use as their daily business. So it's nothing fresh. It's like, I don't know, having a cassette player or a Walkman in your story, and you wouldn't start explaining which company first developed the Walkman, etc. So people just use it, and that's it. The challenge is in my book, because I really want to educate the reader about the technology, and that is a little bit challenging. But still, I think going the direction of explaining less and people just using technology would be the way to go. So this is something I would completely rewrite, and maybe earlier in the story have the protagonist call Earth and simply experience the longer delay, or maybe in a spaceship and she travels further and further away from the Earth, and then really explain how that delay works. Okay, moving on, one moment. Okay, so that is an issue of the keywords here, of the keywords here, of the narrator, of the question about the narrator, story tone, etc. So that is something we have to nail down. And I really decided last time, okay, we don't use a narrator. The protagonists experience the world firsthand, and we don't explain how the world works by simply giving exposition, but we have the people experience the world. Okay, just checking. So last time there was also a question about additional characters and how they influence the story. I haven't decided yet on other characters, so I will just start out as a one character story, and the person will indirectly interact with other people, and if needed then I will add additional people. But starting out, we just focus on the story of the protagonist, single person, going into space and exploring something and going back to Earth. I think I have put it here, yeah. So we have a backstory on Mars, and the main story is on Venus, or at least in the atmosphere of Venus, and then she returns to Earth and then maybe confronts why she has left Earth, or why she has decided to go on a mission. And we also decided, okay, she has a medium competency, so she knows her stuff, but there's maybe more to learn, and ends up with high competency and confidence. So she starts out high, maybe too high, higher than her competency, and then falls low. So she just wants a simple job and just follows the job. And that is something we have to map out with specific events. She gains confidence again, and maybe by gaining confidence she will also take over more work or more challenging tasks, and then even improves her competency and reaches a level of confidence that is aligned with her competency. That all sounds dry and like an architecture, but you need to do that for your story. You need to know, okay, how do the individual characters develop? I mean, here it's very simple. It's one person. How do they develop their abilities or their relationships? You could also put a relationship here in that you have another person there and you define the relationship. Okay, maybe they were on good terms and then there was some conflict, or you have as I had competency, maybe it's also health or something that can change where they have to overcome some challenges. Okay, so but enough enough of theory, we go into the work mode. So we don't edit it right here, but instead, halfway there, we go into what is called overleaf. I presented that tool in one of the first sessions we had. So you can just go back on my channel and just watch first few channels. So basically, I show you the full screen. Basically, you have on the left, you have the chapters, and on the right, you have the text. There are also other tools where you can basically create a knowledge database of what characters you have, what plot do they tie into. I think, did I install it? I think I have it. It's called, I think it's Campfire. Let me check. Yeah. So if you don't want to work in Excel, or if you need something to lead you in your first project, I can recommend Campfire. I don't use it, so can't say that much about it. I just know it exists and many people use it. So you can basically use it as a sort of Wikipedia, and you can create characters, images, add physical traits, statistics, personal traits, and then basically build your story around it. Maybe I will do it, maybe I won't, but at the moment I won't. I might maybe for next time use it, and we'll just fill it out together. Okay. We start here with our text, and we will actually work on it. Okay. So what we talked last time about this is the issue that we make a lot of promises here, and we're not sure if we will keep those promises. That's from somewhere else. In that way, maybe we'll just leave it like that. So that is the intro. That is her mission failed on Mars, and what I want to change here is actually to use this as a better introduction, and really use this stressful situation of a failing mission on Mars to characterize her. So we don't have her. We have nothing here that shows, okay, she is overconfident, and we have nothing about her competency here. We just know the mission failed, and that's it. We don't know more about it. Wait, I'll move it a little bit. No. Right. Okay. So we don't really learn much about her. So maybe we'll add some to-dos here. So one thing we found out is to do. We don't learn anything about her competency. Another thing is we don't learn about her confidence. So there's nothing that where she's like overconfident or something like that. It's just an accident and the thing failed, and that would be really a good situation where we could implement. And the question is, of course, how we tell that, in what way we show the reader, okay, hey, she is a little bit overconfident. She takes on more than she can do, and maybe she made a mistake, and that causes the damage. And of course, we can just enter like a dialogue where we say, okay, hey, Catherine, please repair this and that. And she says, sure, I can do it. And then she does it and it fails. Seems a little bit unrealistic because astronauts are usually very good in what they do. So the core question is, of course, why the whole thing fails, and that is an open plot point or plot hole we have to fill. We can't just make something up because that's a bad story. The challenge is, of course, because if you want to use an astronaut, again, those are specialists and they're highly trained and they don't like just make mistakes. So what is really the actual problem why the Mars mission failed? And that is something, as a narrator of the story, we have to explain. Otherwise, you end up with a bad movie or a bad book. So, and that is maybe another to do. We have to simply. So why did the Mars mission fail? Because if we say, okay, option A, like there was sabotage. Well, if it was sabotage, then why does she lose confidence? I mean, she could lose general confidence in spaceships, but that isn't really the issue. So it is more like she would have to be blamed for it. So she thought she was the cause, but it was actually sabotage, for example. So that would be an option. Other option would be, we say, it was her mistake, period. The question is to do then, she was highly trained. So who did the mistake? So what happened? So there have to be other factors at play. I mean, for example, if you look at the Challenger catastrophe, it wasn't the astronauts or the fault that it exploded. It was an engineering fault because of because of problematic processes within the organization. I think because people couldn't speak out or they weren't heard when there was a problem. So maybe it was an engineering's fault. But that could be also something for an option C. Engineering fault, but she still thought it was her fault. For example, if you watch, how's it called? The movie where they land the plane in the Hudson River. That is, I think, with Tom Hanks. It's called Sully. Okay, because the captain was called Sully. That movie is great. You can imagine that someone who's basically crash landing a plane will play that scenario again and again in their head and think about, could I have saved the plane? Could I have saved the plane? What could I have had done? And even if it was an accident where she wasn't the cause, she would still maybe have a feeling of guilt. So we could say feeling of guilt even if she wasn't at fault. Then the question is, of course, is there an will there be an, what's it in English? Untersuchungsausschuss. Untersuchungsausschuss. Okay, review board or investigation committee. I mean, that could also be part of an idea how to proceed the story here. And you see, okay, I never thought about a investigation committee, but simply thinking out, okay, what would be logical, the next logical step. I mean, it's not like pirates in space and everyone has their own ship and they fly around and whatever. But I mean, if you imagine, NASA also does, of course, retrospective analysis of what happened during an accident, simply to not make it again. So maybe that would be a plot point to do. This is a plot point. So maybe similar to movies like Sully, and the other movie with the other one, how's it called? Where they turn the plane around, if you know that, pilot plane 180 degrees. And movie sets. Flight. Okay. Flight or Sully. So that could be a thing, and maybe the outcome of the committee is that she wasn't at fault, but the whole process like took a psychological toll on her, and she can't fly anymore. I mean, it's too stressful. She underwent the whole catastrophe, and she's simply no longer able to enter a spaceship and fly it. And then the question, of course, if she is shaken, then what happens? Why is she later then on another mission? That is a question. So those are all plot points we have to look at. For now, let's assume she returns safely. There is an investigation. I mean, that makes sense. And maybe there is sabotage, but at this point, it is not yet discovered. And she is maybe loses a rank or something like that. But there is psychological toll, so it takes a while until she returns to work, and she no longer wants the whole responsibility. And the whole idea of the novel is, okay, how can people return? No, well, it's not the whole idea, but it is one element, like brain implants and how they can help people. And maybe that is also a thing that she decides. She always had that dream to travel the stars, and that's why she decided, okay, I really can't enter any spaceship anymore, and I will undertake that operation. And if you know the series that's called Severance on Apple. They get like a chip implanted where they forgot their outside life, their life outside of work, and vice versa. When outside of work, they don't know what happened at work, and that gives a door open for conspiracies, but maybe conspiracy theories. But maybe here, okay, she decided to get an upgrade, implant, or whatever, or procedure done to get back to flying. Basically, get back her license. And I think that makes sense. So for whatever reason, maybe sabotage, the mission failed. There was a committee. We can use that committee to talk about, again, the mission, about like a sort of detective story or something like that. And also for character development. And then she has to go through her inner conflict, decide to go back to work, but she does it by getting that implant. And maybe as a payoff later, maybe later she removes the implant and still has her confidence. Maybe that is the character development then we will go for. Okay. And as I see, okay, this is something I just wrote down, like I just wrote it, whatever came to my eye, but all those decisions here have consequences that I do in the story, and now I looked at it again from a more critical view and came to that. Wait, review. It's just so. Okay, that is that. Okay. My computer just switches on the night lights. So especially for us writers, if you work late at night creatively, you should think about getting the settings right in Windows or Mac or Apple or your mobile phone to activate the night lights, the red light instead of the blue light. It's better for your sleep. Okay, I'm just checking the comments. Okay, so. Okay, so we have now basically the first one. We will skip the question about the committee, and just take that as another option for another character development. But back to our original question here: why did the Mars mission fail? So we answered that now. Okay, there's a sabotage. Probably, maybe we'll change it, but that is something. The problem was we didn't learn much about her confidence. That is true. Well, we said, okay, she basically was shattered because of it, but we don't know much about the confidence, how she went in there, and we don't know much about her competency. That is something we still have to figure out how to explain that. So we can explain her loss of confidence. That is easy, the easy part. How can we, maybe we'll focus on this, how can we explain that she is now learning, that she is on a path of improvement? So if you look or you remember again the example of the hero's journey, I have it here somewhere. A classical example, Star Wars again, but that is simply a classic example. We have, of course, Luke Skywalker learning to be a Jedi, and what is it? What journey can we accompany the scientist or the astronaut here? Because astronauts, again, the problem is they're highly trained, and you can't just send basically a farm boy or farm girl to space and say, well, they just came along, they just entered the spaceship and just accompanied the other astronauts, and that's their adventure. That works with the movie Armageddon, where they have to send those specialists up. So, and that was an emergency. So they had to bring up or train the oil drillers, or the drillers that usually drill for oil. Super specialists, worldwide specialists, have to train them to go into space within 1 or 2 weeks. So you have also the whole chapter of them going through the development of having of learning to be an astronaut and getting familiar with the technology, and that is a really good way of getting also the reader involved. I mean, that would be an interesting idea. So maybe there is an emergency why someone who is not that competent goes into space and then returns. And that is basically the big question. So how can someone incompetent go to space? So in Star Wars, it was relatively easy because the technology was so far advanced that as an astronaut, you just, I mean, it didn't make any difference where you are. I mean, their ships are, they even probably have gravity generators, and they don't even use spacesuits. I mean, in Star Wars, it's basically like flying a normal plane. There's no much difference. And actually, Star Wars is a recreation of the movie called The Dam Busters, like where they developed a certain weapon to bomb certain dams during World War II in Germany to flood the area and shut down factories. And Star Wars is basically a recreation of that movie. And so you have planes bombing something on the ground, and that is basically the end sequence of Star Wars. Okay, so the big question is, how can someone incompetent go to space? So there must be a time pressure on the one hand, then there must be a specialist. So she must be. Of course, then it becomes a little bit far-fetched. I mean, we still want to keep it realistically. So that is a little bit the question of realism versus telling a good story. Telling a good story means to take the reader who maybe knows nothing about space on their hand and accompanying them alongside. That is challenging. That is a challenge, especially if that person is also overconfident. So that is still something somewhat of a challenge we have to get over. So I think that is still a plot hole. But you can imagine, I mean, if you know bad movies, that some writers simply say, well, whatever, they're going to space, and maybe they're not that good at that, and maybe that's how the script of Armageddon was written. But yeah, the realism is really an issue. So yeah, that is really a problem. So maybe we'll look at it from another point of view. How can someone incompetent go to space? So is someone like William Shatner, is that an incompetent person? So he played a spaceship captain, but is he an astronaut? No. Still, he went to space, accompanied by astronauts. So that works. So where it works is space tourism. So we would have to be in a future where something like space tourism would be open to even people who are, not billionaires, but regular people. So the question is there maybe a space hotel? So let me check. So, and that is actually something I thought about with my game, where I describe the background story. Where do I have it here? Output. Here we go. Hope I got the right one. Oh, okay, I have to rotate it. Okay, one moment. Layer. Transform. Yeah. So, space hotel. Do we have it here? Space hotel. No, it's on the next one. One moment. I soon have it. Space. Ah, next one. Okay. Space hotel. Thought I had it. Space hotel. One moment. Space hotel. No, it's on the first page. Floating cities. Surveillance. Robot standardization. Employee search portal. Satellites. Self-driving cars. Creativity. Okay, I have to look it on the other page. Well, whatever. So there is one card in my game that is called Space. Ah, no, wait, I have it. Space Hotel. Oh, okay, I found it after all. Image rotation. I'll show it. Zoom. Okay. So I decided basically to show or to create a card for each technology in that world. This has, of course, more game relevant than the book relevant. But one card I really researched is the Space Hotel. There's still an issue. And that Space Hotel is created by basically a sect that wants to flee Earth in a colony ship. I mean, that's a common trope. That you have some crazy sect to build a colony ship and flee Earth and build a commune somewhere out in the stars. And basically, as a stepping stone, instead of just focusing just on the colony ship, they have space hotels in orbit of Earth, maybe in orbit of Mars. That would be a way to pick up passengers who are not that. Who are not necessarily astronauts to work there and maybe not have a job where they have to go outside and repair stuff. Maybe they have really a whole staff there that is maybe only familiar with the very basics of space travel, of fixing stuff in space. But the servants basically working there could be people that are there. Still, it's a little bit far-fetched, but it would be an option. So there is maybe a space hotel. So space hotel above Mars. So, and maybe she joins other astronauts, something like that. Still, I think I'm not really happy with that. I don't have a better idea. So if you have a better idea, write it here, how the backstory could go, that someone incompetent is now suddenly part of or let's say medium competency is now part of a official NASA mission, and that mission somehow fails. So that is also, if she's just a passenger, it's not necessary that she loses confidence. So what is her role? So that is still still needs some work. But that is basically what writing is about, at least coherent writing and not just screenwriting for people who just want to see action. Okay, so I think we are finished for today now. So that is basically what I have for the first chapter, just about, hey, what is her plot during the story? So where does she get her confidence? Where does she lose her confidence? What happened really? Was it sabotage? And investigation committee, that is new. So that will be a chapter all about the investigation, what went wrong. And the outcome, like how does she cope with that outcome? Maybe she, as I said, she really wants to go to space. That is her dream as an own captain, but now no one wants to have anything to do with her. That is bad luck, and maybe it is an introduction how she got her implant that will be part of the main story plot. Yeah, that is this for today. So if you have any questions, just put them down in the comments. So thank you for listening. And if you want to talk about your own story, just message me. And have a nice week, and we'll talk again next Sunday, same time, 9 o'clock Middle European time, and 3 o'clock in Eastern time, I think, in the US. Okay, just checking the chat, and I think then we have it. Okay, yeah, bye.